everyone. Welcome back to Urban Pulse GY, your planning podcast, where we highlight developmental initiatives in Guyana, navigate planning issues, and explore potential solutions. I am Chrysandria Lindbergh Finance, your host and planning coach. Good evening. Did you know that the first Europeans to settle in Guyana were the Dutch? Yes, they were. In fact, they landed here almost 100 years after Columbus sighted the South American mainland. Did you know that? But for more of this, stay tuned to today's Planning Digest segment, where we'll be learning more about the Dutch and their urban planning influences here in Guyana. Are you looking to own your own vehicle? Then check out Janai's Auto Sales and Imports for all your motor vehicle needs. And take advantage of our cash purchases, bank financing, or our rent-to-own options. We're located at Lot 16 Annadel on the east coast of Demerara, or call us on 686-0330. Janai's Auto Sales, making dreams a reality. Previously, we talked about the origin and evolution of human settlements, and we noted that there are 4 classifications of human settlement. In planning, whenever we talk about settlement classification, it's based on 4 main indicators. These are forms, size, types, and functions. To get a better understanding, today we'll be pulsating around settlement classifications by form. Now, if you travel through a village or through a town, you would observe that they both would have buildings and roads and other features of commonalities. And this is because there are several common attributes that exist between urban areas and rural areas. Yet, despite these commonalities, each settlement is different from the other and presents a unique personality of its own. Human settlements can be characterized into several forms based on their spatial organization or the arrangement of their buildings. These are linear, nucleated, or dispersed settlements. Whenever we talk about linear settlement, it's based on patterns that occurs in a line or in an arc shape. They typically follow like roads or maybe a valley or a water body, a river or a lake, anything of that sort. This allows the settlement to utilize those areas, those modes, whether it's a road or a valley or a creek, as transportation routes. They also occur along valley floors, where the sides are very steep. In addition to the transportation routes that the roads and rivers provide, the buildings in linear settlements are arranged in a line. And along these paths, they facilitate trade and communication. Now, a very good example of a linear settlement would be our capital city, Georgetown, where it extends along the east coast of Demerara, where it follows the path of the Atlantic Ocean. The layout facilitates trade. As we know, in Georgetown itself, there are several ports. There is ports and wharf, in fact. There is John Finance, there is Munishwar. All of those are there because they're able to facilitate trade by water. Another form is dispersed settlements, and these consist of isolated buildings or group of buildings spread out over a large area. This pattern is often found in rural regions where agriculture dominates and where the houses are situated far apart from one another. Dispersed settlements usually occur in remote or mountainous regions or in areas where the land is predominantly used for agricultural purposes. In these areas, there is limited job opportunities. In the context of Guyana, a suitable example for a dispersed settlement would be areas outside of urban centers. Let's consider Letem, for example. Letem is an urban center, and the communities around Letem would exhibit characteristics of a dispersed settlement, where farms and individual homesteads are scattered across the landscape due to the availability of land, and oftentimes they would engage in agricultural activities or animal husbandry. The other form of human settlement is clustered or nucleated. This form of settlement is often common in rural areas where agricultural land surrounds the residential areas. Some characteristics are they're found in flat relief, and this is often so because it's easier to build. The site would often have a bridging point. The site is often good for defense. There is often good water source. No restrictions to development in any direction. As a result, good job opportunities exist within these communities. A great example in Guyana is New Amsterdam, where residential areas and commercial establishments are concentrated around a common facility, for example, a school or a market. And they facilitate community engagement and service provision. Well, from our Did You Know segment, I guess you are eager to hear about Guyana's premier urban settlement. In our last digest, we talked about the Amerindians and their planning influence here in Guyana. In this segment, we will be examining urban planning from the historical perspective of the Dutch settlers. Almost 100 years after Columbus would have first sighted the mainlands of South America, there was a gold-finding frenzy that was ignited in Guyana after the visit of Sir Walter Raleigh in 1595. It was the prospects of finding gold that propelled the establishment of European settlements in this part of the region. The Dutch were the first European to establish settlements or colonies in Guyana, and they started in Essequibo between the period 1613 to 1616. And this followed by their establishment in Berbice in 1627, and then in 1745 they established the colony of Demerara, which was created as a separate colony out of a portion of Essequibo. Initially, when the Europeans came, they began trading with the indigenous people. They established a trading port in Essequibo to facilitate their trade. Fort Kaikoverall, when defined, it means sea overall, was the first permanent fort built by the Dutch in Guyana after their arrival in 1598. The construction of this fort marked a significant Dutch settlement effort in Essequibo. As it served as a center for trade with the indigenous population and to the Dutch West Indies Company, by 1621, it served as a secure base to protect their interests, as they were taking control of the region through the acquisition of lands. The growth of the Dutch population by 1716 resulted in the overcrowding of the capital. They were flocking this part of the region in numbers that their administrative capital, Fort Kuykoverall, was now overcrowded. Hence, there was need for new administrative buildings to be built to accommodate officials of the expanding settlement. The Dutch settlers began relocating to the more fertile bank of the Essequibo River. There, a new fort was set up to protect the planters who had relocated from Fort Kuykoverall to this new area. So their interests needed to be protected. So the administration moved with them in an effort to protect their interest. The place selected was Flag Island. And this was done in 1726 when an engineer from the Netherlands constructed Fort Vlageniland. And he did so with wood. And this became the colony's administrative center. The changing economic conditions brought on by the shift from gold to agriculture led to the decline and complete abandonment of Fort Kuykoverall by the year 1748. There you go, my friends. Digest on that. Now, this has brought us to the end of today's podcast, where we discuss urban planning from the perspective of our Dutch settlers. Join us again next week. And remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and Facebook. And remember, together we build sustainable communities and a better Guyana. Good evening.